first things first. Have you seen that new movie?
Which one?
You know, that one about the guy in the red suit and all that. It stars Tim Allen.
Oh, the Santa Claus?
Yeah, the Santa.
Yeah,
Oh,
I love
wait.
that movie.
Yeah. Are we supposed to be talking about something? Is that the one we said we were going to review?
Well, I don't see why we shouldn't review the Santa Claus.
Let's do it. So Tim Allen's the Santa Claus.
On sale now, it's Tim Allen. He's turning into Santa. Who's down there? Whether he likes it or not. Easy Rudolph the Santa Claus. Own it today.
Oh, it's terrific. Ooh. Fantastic.
I know.
I love it.
No, Judge Reinhold is still my favorite part.
Judge Reinhold is still the best part. So I met this guy walking home from Save-A-Lot.
Oh, yeah?
And he was in an alley, and he was a wizard. All right?
Like,
and he told me he was a wizard.
Like a real wizard, or was he just high?
Both.
Okay.
And so he told me there's this movie we should go see, and that's why we went. That's why we saw it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did, but he also told me that if we were to say his name, that we would receive magical powers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're supposed to go up to our full potential. Like, you know, you're supposed to go to the very top if you say his name.
Yeah.
So
like your peak human.
So I've already told Brandon the name, because if we say it, like crazy stuff happens, and that's it. You know, the whole ceiling is kaput.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
3 layers of ceiling here.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So 1, 2, 3. Shazam! Am I big? Is it like Tom Hanks?
I mean,
like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we're adult size, just like in the movie.
You don't look any different.
Yeah.
Oh my God! You know what this means, right?
We peaked.
We hit our full potential.
Yeah.
Holla! Oh yes! Oh man! Woo! I feel terrific.
Feels good.
And exactly the same as I did before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
The yourself, you know, sometimes you have to learn to love you.
Are you also like crushingly depressed though that this is as good as it's ever going to be?
Yeah. Oh well, I wasn't, but now I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's mightiest mortal, Shazam! Wisdom, strength, and courage of the gods, Captain Marvel fights a never-ending battle against evil.
All right, Brandon. So clearly, all joking aside, we're here to talk about Shazam. Okay, I didn't lose any ceiling tiles there, so I'm good. But yeah, so we're really excited to talk about the movie, but I think before we go there, we should probably talk about the weird state of the DC extended film universe.
The elephant in the room.
This is some strange stuff. Yeah. We're living in an Elseworld right now.
Yeah, complete turnaround. We're now on Earth 2.
Who could have predicted like any of this?
Yeah.
I would love to live on Earth 2, by the way.
Yeah, well,
Earth 2 is awesome.
Yeah. Or Earth S, I guess, is the pre-crisis Earth with all the Shazam.
Sure. DC Extended Universe is funny because Marvel started.
Well, the problem is it wasn't very funny.
No, that's the issue.
Up until just a few months ago,
like, the Marvel universe started out with like a home run with Iron Man, but then this one they attempt to start it with Green Lantern, and when that doesn't work, then they try Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of they bunted a little, you know,
well,
like it was okay.
They sort of. I mean, this goes back forever. You know, I guess Green Lantern's their first attempt at copying the Marvel model, but I mean they had started doing it sort of with Superman Returns, sort of with Justice League Mortal, and then with Green Lantern, and so on and so on. So it's been, I mean, a decade or better of false starts and stops. It's been really fascinating.
You know, what's interesting about all this is, you know, then Man of Steel comes out, and it's a pretty good success, and, you know, it's about half and half. Some people love it, and some people hate it. And, you know, and I really liked it a lot. I mean, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So I don't really, you know.
Yeah.
But then Batman v Superman comes out, and the movie's so bad it's indefensible.
Yeah.
Like, you can't hardly defend it. No. It's so bad.
Oh, my, I'm talking about crushed.
And then the director's comes out, and then, of course, with our previous video we had about that. And it's actually really good.
It's terrific, yeah.
But Warner Brothers meddled.
The damage is done to the public.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how many.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter that 10,000 people bought the director's cut Blu-ray. It's not going to make up the difference.
It won't make the difference. And most of these people who saw it in the theater and hated it,
we're going to continue to hate it.
Yeah, they're never going to know.
It's still, you know, tarnished.
And for a lot of people, it wasn't a big enough turnaround.
Yeah.
And so then you've got Justice League, and of course it's a whole mess, and everybody on the internet knows what Justice League is.
We don't. No.
There's no reason to.
No explanation necessary there.
Two different directors, competing visions, and it's just, you know.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed Justice League. I thought that it was a lot of fun.
Oh, Justice League's terrific.
I don't think that it was anything substantial.
No, that's
the whole issue.
That's the problem.
And then you get this weird situation where Aquaman makes more money
than any DC
than
movie
Batman
ever
v
made.
Superman. I mean, and then Wonder Woman, which wasn't supposed to be any good,
Yeah.
Turns out to be really good.
Yeah.
And so you've got Aquaman and Wonder Woman, and now, spoiler alert, Shazam, are kind of like heading off the DC extended film universe.
Yeah.
And they're the best things about it. And Ben Affleck has quit.
Yeah.
Batman.
Cavill is probably out.
It's probably
still
gone. Evidenced by this movie.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Yep.
Speaking of this movie, this is just going to be a full-on spoiler review.
Yeah.
We don't want to give away anything to anybody, but I don't want to beat around the bush. If you were going to see it,
we're late to the game reviewing it, so sorry.
Yeah, we might as well just go on ahead. So it's going to be what it
But
is.
full spoiler alert, if stop, whatever now.
Right.
Please keep watching, but turn the volume down.
That's it.
Just give us the view.
That's
whatever.
it.
Yeah.
And like and smash that subscribe button.
Lord. Shazam, that subscribe button. I want to address another elephant in the room. The character's name is now Shazam. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to call him Captain Marvel. We're not going to make 10 jokes about confusing the name or anything. But formerly the superhero formerly known as Captain Marvel, now Shazam.
I will probably accidentally call him Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah.
I have the people who I've told to watch this movie. I'll say, oh man, you've got to see Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, the Marvel movie. I saw it. And I'm like, no, you got to see Shazam. But
it's easy to do.
But Brandon, you got a long history with the character, right?
Well, yeah. My dad was a big Captain Marvel fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that because it's correct in context.
Right.
And read those 70s DC comics. When the characters first ran, and reprints of the old Fawcett comics and stuff. And the thing that got me into loving Captain Marvel, Shazam, when I was a kid, was actually the movie serial.
Oh yeah.
And I've got a VHS copy I had when I was younger of him in the blue costume, which is hilarious.
Captain Marvel Jr.
And that really informed a lot of my ideas and my feelings about the character.
Right.
And so it caused me to go back and check out a lot of those, again, reprints of the early the 1940s stories and things like that. And it's just really enamored. Shazam kind of should be every little kid's favorite superhero. I mean, it's the epitome of wish fulfillment. Superheroes are wish fulfillment for children to begin with, and Shazam is the absolute epitome of that concept. So from there, obviously Kingdom Come was a big thing for us, and again, I'll cut in another picture. War of the Gods, I really love. It's one of my favorite Captain Marvel Shazam stories. But yeah, just one of those things that really spoke to me. And he has this, it's not macabre, but has a sort of a fanciful, a bizarre quality to him that Superman doesn't have,
Well, he's magic.
But yeah,
Superman
it's the magic, and he's got these bizarre villains and things, just an interesting history, in the media too. Of course, there's the Filmation TV series from the 70s. Used to watch that on TV Land. Years ago when they do remember the Midnight Kitchen with Martin Mull?
Yeah, I remember
Fred
that.
Willard
Yeah.
they do years ago?
Yeah.
Used to show the reruns in there. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was
cool.
awesome. They had the Sid and Marty Krofft shows, HR Puffin stuff and things like that. Just a tremendous love that I have for this character, and that gets tossed around a lot, but
Right.
I mean, really like a deep-seated love and admiration. And again, that sort of, for me, really started with the movie serial, which again, I attribute to my dad. He was really into that kind of stuff, so it was something I was exposed to very early on.
For me, it's kind of a weird history because my brother-in-law, Paul, I was constantly at their place, at my sister's place, and he had these old giant-size comics, and as anybody knows, in the mid-70s, DC released those giant, issues where it's the huge reprints.
Yeah, giant cardstock cover.
Yeah. And at that time, they were capitalizing on their library of Golden Age kind of stuff and Silver Age stuff by releasing it like that. And my brother-in-law was a fan of Captain Marvel, at that time, and he had these giant issues, and of all this great stuff with Dr. Sivana and Captain Marvel and Billy Batson, and I just read those, and they absolutely thrilled me, but also sort of scared me when I saw stuff like about Savannah trying to kill Billy Batson, and I was like, oh,
the 7 deadly enemies of man.
It seemed more dangerous to me than being Superman because I
Well,
was a little boy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, they make. So I'm gonna dip in the movie just a bit here. Speaking to the sort of bizarre nature of those early comics, you have something like the 7 deadly sins in the movie. They're pretty frightening and everything.
Sure.
But they're a little, they're a little stock. Something like the bizarre, like rubberish drawings of the 7 deadly enemies of man and those Golden Age stories really actually more frightening. Than what they do in the movie. If they had done like photoreal versions of those, it would have been much more terrifying.
Oh yeah, that would have been horrific. Maybe they'll do that next.
That would be awesome.
I bet Sandberg would be into that.
Oh yeah.
The other big exposure for me was Kingdom Come. Honestly, I had tucked Captain Marvel away for a long time, and then I read Kingdom Come as a teenager, and I was like, oh, this is terrific.
Yeah.
This is great stuff. So that excited me and rejuvenated my interest in the character. I think that this has been one of those movies that I kept hearing was gonna happen, but I actually didn't think it would.
Yeah,
for the longest time.
Versions of the movie have been in development for 15, almost 20 years, really. Going back to well before the shared universe idea. Probably why it's still relatively distant from the rest of the.
Might be why it's branded as a New Line film.
Hey, well, yeah, and that was funny because
it was weird to see the New Line logo. I didn't expect that. I think that the great thing about this movie, when it finally was able to come to fruition in the most unlikely of ways, to have David F. Sandberg, who's this horror director.
Yeah.
He's going to do this movie,
and a television star.
Yeah. And the guy from Chuck, which is Zachary Levi or Zachary Levy.
I don't know. Never heard it pronounced out loud. I guess.
Okay.
Well, I want to say Levi. But...
Yeah, that's me. But basically, you've got him, the guy from Chuck, playing Shazam, and I just really didn't know what to expect. I thought that it was good casting though when I heard it. Yeah, I thought it sounded good.
He replaced
Fandral.
Yeah, the guy playing Fandral in the Thor sequels.
Yeah.
Obviously not used very much, but
no,
I'm sure he
definitely not in Ragnarok.
Yeah, exactly. Him and Stevenson both.
Wasted. That's my big knock against Ragnarok. That always kind of holds it back for me.
So it was fascinating, and then as DC does, you've got an actor from a previous project that bombed that they want to give a second chance to. So you got Mark Strong as Dr. Sivana, which was a big point of contention for a lot of people. A lot of folks wanted Black Adam right off the bat. I was super cool with Sivana. He's the first villain in the first Shazam story in Wiz Comics. So I think that's a great move. This is a much more modern, New 52 iteration of the character, but it still makes a lot of sense.
Gary Frank and Jeff Johns' story. That's what they really based on.
Oh yeah,
they're even acknowledged in the credits.
They are,
the source of inspiration.
And a lot of more specific ideas come from that story arc.
Right.
I think that's my favorite thing. Really, is that it's a good, condensing of
it's an amalgam,
classic,
it's
great amalgamation of your classic Golden Age ideas, your sensibilities, and then your modern.
You got your
modern
classic
tropes.
Golden Age sensibilities.
Yes.
You got your modern
modern glam and glitz.
You got your new 52. You throw it on the pot and see what works.
And it worked. It worked beautifully. So
I just love that this movie is so different than anything that we've gotten in forever. The superhero genre, I think there's always that conversation fueled by the Spielbergs of the world, it's always like, oh, the bubble's gonna burst. They're finally they're gonna run out. And I think that this is another sign that no, people are gonna keep reinventing the wheel and trying new things.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it redefines things. It redefines some success and redefines some of the terms of success. Because here's a film that's much lower budgeted than most of these, than any Marvel Studios movie, and than any
90
other
million,
DC,
they say, to
something
make
like that, 80 to 100 million,
so less
which is
than
almost
$100 million.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and the movie looks terrific. So we'll get more into that later.
Absolutely.
But doing the fish out of water kind of big as a superhero, movie is an incredible idea, and the way that they did it. And they could have taken it a lot of different ways. I think that some people are like, oh yeah, well that's just how it's going to be. Not necessarily. They could have done a lot of different things with it.
They could have just turned it into a Superman story.
Right.
After it becomes.
They could have went full on serious with it, but it is a comedy. It is it is an action comedy.
A children's Deadpool,
Right. Well, sort of children's Deadpool.
Yeah.
It's about
a younger
halfway.
person's Deadpool, child appropriate Deadpool. But it tugs at a lot of strings. it's funny because it does some of those Deadpool things. It tears down the conventions of the superhero films, but it also embraces them. It's the most traditional superhero comic booky movie that's been made in a long time, but it's also deconstructionist.
I've heard a lot of people say that it reminded them a little bit of the Raimi Spider-Man films, and I can see that. And tonally, I think that it had a lot of similarities to it.
Yeah.
It's not a screwball or a slapstick comedy by any means,
No,
but it is extremely lighthearted,
Mhm.
and of course there's some horror elements thrown in, which
Yeah.
we'll get into. But some things, Brandon, if you had to say about the story, what did you think that you felt was good about their approach, like, to the material for you?
I think that it was good to take their time. Honestly, I'm glad that it takes them that little bit to get to know Billy better and see him in his family life. I don't need him to turn into Shazam 5 minutes into the movie. We're not dealing with a cartoon here, and it is a character that not everybody's super familiar with.
Right.
He's been around for over 70 years, and at points he's been massively popular. But if you ask a person on the street anything about Shazam or the original Captain Marvel, what are they going to know? So I think that build-up is important. Again, much like the Raimi Spider-Man movie, how many people could have told you the specifics of Spider-Man's origin prior to that movie coming out? Probably not a whole lot. If you out of a sample of 10, 2 or 3 possibly.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that it takes a good 30 minutes for him to turn into Shazam in the movie.
And normally that would be a complaint to me.
Right.
But I would liken it to the 2017 Power Rangers movie, where if somebody had explained it, that it took them that long to become the Power Rangers, I would have said that's dumb.
I can't watch that.
But then it turns out it's the best decision they could have
Right.
made, because it's all about the characters.
To me, this works out even better than that movie did, because I was so immediately invested in Billy Batson, and I was enjoying the movie and being hooked on, like, oh, is he going to find his mom? Who are his parents and stuff like that. And his fish out of water into the foster home and new school. It was already an enjoyable little movie.
It was,
before
It's
Shazam.
One of the good, the basis of what makes one of these movies good is if you took the fantastic out of it.
Right.
You take The Dark Knight and you remove Batman from it, it's still a great crime story.
That's right.
You take Shazam and you pull the superhero stuff out of it, it's still a fun, kids adventure.
It's still a heartwarming.
It's still the
story.
Goonies,
Yeah, exactly.
essentially.
I think that makes a big difference for me, but I think the opening of the movie makes one of the biggest differences for me.
Oh yeah,
I was
opening
immediately
up was
I was immediately sold on the movie, because here you're going to start with the villain, and you're going to start setting up the villain's motivation for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's been so many recent superhero films that kind of forget the villain, and they're just really throwaway. Even villains with good performances, they can be just totally throwaway villains. So
drop them into the middle of the story,
like a Doctor Strange or something like that, where there's almost no attention paid.
Yeah.
Like, to the villains. I mean, they're there and they do really good, and
they're
played by great actor. But unfortunately, a lot of movies just don't really focus. And here immediately opens up car crash. Dr. Sivana,
John Glover.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Who's got a storied DC Comics history?
Yes, he does. He does. He was the
Floronic Man and Batman and Robin.
Dr. Woodrue.
I'm afraid you'll have to die.
He's the voice of the Riddler in Batman Animated Series.
That's right. He
Lionel
was
Luthor in
Lionel
10 seasons
Luthor.
of,
That's right.
of Smallville.
So he's been, just all over the place. Is he
and again,
a big fan, or what's the...
Again, if you're in with DC Comics, then you're there. Like, you're stuck.
There's another big example later in this movie that we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But I just love that. It opens up, and you get it. This is a kid who's been jilted by this power, made to feel worthless. It gives him a permanent chip on his shoulder. He already had one because of the mistreatment of his dad and his brother.
Yeah.
And then, it just sets it all up just perfectly. And
it's been, people say this all the time, but you really can, until it gets crazy,
right?
You really identify with.
Oh yeah, I can get it. I can be like, I understand.
I would feel that way.
Yeah, I get it.
Absolutely.
Not his means or anything, but I get the feeling. I get the anger.
Absolutely.
So I thought that worked out perfectly. So kudos to them. Great songs too at the beginning of the movie when they're playing the. What is it they're playing?
Do you hear what I hear?
Yeah, do you hear what I hear? The 70s version.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah, the Christmas theme always works for these kind of things.
And I'm going to talk more about that Christmas theme later, because I have some suspicions about that. So, of course, after he becomes Captain Marvel, and things don't slow down; they only get better and better.
Keep ramping up.
You know, I've heard some people say that the best part of a lot of superhero movies or origin films are when they start learning how to use their powers.
Yeah.
And I think this has one of the strongest string of scenes of a hero learning how to use his powers that I've ever seen.
Oh, exactly.
In one of these types of films.
That's a great musical montage. It's one of my favorites ever. Probably since the stuff in the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
The Don't Stop Me Now montage.
Yeah, the Queen montage is phenomenal. And Nick and super funny too.
The whole thing at the
the laser
store.
vision's my favorite thing. It got me. Like I busted a gut.
There's so much good stuff in that middle portion. So
well, the key relationship in the movie is the relationship between Billy and Freddy. I think, and it's interesting because you see and it's highlighted in the film. I mean, they go out of their way to say it. You know, the relationship between Billy and Freddy is different than the relationship between Freddy and Shazam. You know,
That's true.
Which is a fascinating way to take it.
He tells Shazam that he can't talk to him when he's like that.
Yeah.
You know, he's turned back into Billy so I can talk to you. And I think that they do a good exploration of what that would do to the psyche of like a young teenage boy if he could suddenly, you know, get big and have all these powers and basically have unlimited earnings potential.
Yeah.
And they try, you know, every single gag they can think of about what it would be like for, you know, like a young teenage boy to get like these powers.
Even though the beer joke was in every trailer leading up to it,
it's
it was still great.
Really funny.
Yeah.
So kudos. They also have this in the middle portion of the movie. There's this great kind of moment which leads to the middle portion of the movie, should I say, where Billy is established as an heroic and brave person for what he does to save Freddy from the bullies. And that whole scene where he hits the guys with a crutch and all that and he runs away, I really, really like that. I just think that you should establish that your character is heroic or has potential before they get powers or before they realize, you know, what they can do. So I thought that was fantastic. And I don't know about you, but I thought the actual set of like the Shazam cave,
where the Rock of Eternity.
I mean, it looks so cool.
Oh,
and I'm pretty sure
beautiful.
a lot of it's a real set.
I think so too. Yeah.
I mean, it's like a 2-room thing, and it's not so huge. And I'm used to these movies trying to be so big and having like a 1,000-mile wide cavern in the middle, like on top of a mountain. And this is a pretty reasonably sized cave.
It's obviously in a warehouse somewhere.
Right.
You know?
And I like that.
Yeah.
I think that makes it more
well, at some
relatable.
point making it bigger doesn't make it more awesome in the literary sense.
Right.
It inspires awe. You know, you can only process so much, you know. I think when you get in, and again, this is not a dig because I love Infinity War, but I feel like, are these movies too big sometimes?
Right, yes.
Are they too much to absorb for a human being?
They're a lot, you know, and then also by the middle of the movie, we're introduced to all the kids at the foster home.
Yeah.
And I think the parents work really well.
Yeah.
I think that they're great. But the kids, to me, have varying degrees of success as to how much they work.
That's going to happen anytime you've got a big group of young actors. So.
Yeah. And I applaud them for, you know, their diversity and trying to make it, you know, as much like that as they can, even though it, you know, it might be a little artificial. It's still a nice touch.
Oh.
You know, I appreciate that.
Well, everybody, you know,
So,
you gotta have, you know, you gotta cover your audience, and I don't mean that in some sort of contrived way. I mean,
no.
Everybody needs to feel welcome in this family.
Right.
That's the point, you know. That's the idea. So I do really appreciate that.
I also like how in the middle of the movie follows a really clear narrative structure about setting up all your characters in the first 20 minutes and then establishing your conflict right there in the middle portion. And what's great is that they give Billy Batson a lot of room to grow in the movie, because in the middle you've got Shazam basically showboating and making money off of his powers, just like explicitly, like I'll shoot some stuff for you know,
Latin from the hand.
that's it.
Taking charge of people for selfies and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was brilliant. I thought that was great. You know, and again, it's realistic. It's exactly what a teenage boy would do if you know, he suddenly, like you said, found himself with unlimited earnings.
He morally bottoms out at that point in the movie, and right when he bottoms out, and him and Freddy basically break up as best friends, they love Pineapple Express.
Yeah, but not in a contrived movie way. He doesn't go bad, you know, which is great. You know, I'm sick of seeing that.
He's just selfish.
Yeah.
So basically, then you have Savannah for the first time enter in to Shazam, and they have their first conflict, which Shazam is woefully
Yes.
Unprepared for it. Gets beat to death, and eventually has to just run away in the crowd and just try to get out.
Which is one of my very favorite tropes of a larger than life character.
Right.
It's brilliant in Batman Begins.
Yes.
Brilliant in Casino Royale.
You need to see them fail.
These characters need to be thrown in,
right.
In the deep end, and then you see them have to struggle to get their footing.
And it sets the stakes up because the rest of the movie, the villain won't mean anything unless we see just how dangerous and powerful that they are.
Yeah, exactly.
That they're capable of beating them.
Yeah.
It gives the character an arc. It gives them someplace to grow. If he had just become Shazam and just instantly been perfect, I don't think it would have been as entertaining.
No,
I think at that point, I don't think it would have been as enjoyable anymore. The last third, anyway, is probably my favorite portion of the film, when there's the terrific surprise at the Winter Carnival. And, they're all being chased around, and then it turns out, this last chance to turn back, because this is like this trick of the movie. This is the trick of the movie, that the power of Shazam is that he can share his powers with his family.
Yes.
And all the foster kids get powers. So Mary and Pedro and Freddie and the Asian kid.
Yeah, Eugene.
Yeah. They all
these are all Freddie and Mary are Golden Age characters,
right.
And that's great.
Captain Marvel.
I would not have been surprised if Freddie and Mary got powers through the course of the movie,
right?
And they saved the rest of the supporting characters for a sequel. Those are Jeff Johns characters, from the modern comics. So I'm glad to see them thrown in and everything.
When they all transform, do you notice where it happens at?
Carnival.
It's in a big top circus tent.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the most 40s thing they could have done.
Oh, for sure.
For the characters. And so it's really cool because, just look at their costumes. They're beautiful, for one thing. What some people call corny and silly, I think they're just gorgeous.
I love it, yeah.
I think they're some of the greatest comic book costumes ever. And just look. They're like superhero costumes met Liberace.
Oh yeah,
that's really what it looks like with the capes and how they flow and all that.
And this is not an insult when I say it. The multicolored group dynamic has a Power Rangers vibe to it.
Sure,
but that's not an insult. I think that's great. That's awesome. And better, in many ways, better Power Rangers costumes than for the 2017 movie.
I sort of like Darla's costume the very best.
Oh yeah, that's very
because
cool.
it's so cool. It's got a half skirt. And it's got sneakers. She's got Shazam sneakers.
Yeah, and purple.
And I really I thought that was a really successful, big casting, because the woman really does seem like she would be a natural
adult version of the young actress.
And when she's telling Santa Claus that she's been good all year, and he's like, "What?" And man, they just dumped all over Santa Claus in this movie.
Santa joke.
The Santa joke is incredible, and the vulgar tirade Santa goes on at the end of the movie, and it's like, there's some pretty cool actors that they got to play them at the end too.
Yeah, the Marvel family. Like we always say.
You mean the Shazam family, Brandon?
Yeah. If
Mrs. Shazam? Shazam Jr.?
Mary,
Asian Shazam?
Mary
Shazam? That's a new member.
Mary Shazam? You talking about that Sinbad movie?
I'm talking about that Sinbad movie. Shazakazam. That was starring Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaquille O'Neal is Steel already, so he can't be another DC character.
That's true, man. He's the only one so far.
Yeah.
John Henry Irons. There he is.
But like we always say, if you're in with DC, if they don't follow through with the project, they'll put you in something.
That's why when The Rock drops out of playing Black Adam, they're gonna get Shaquille O'Neal to play Black Adam.
I'd be down.
He'd say, "You remember that one time when you were Steel?"
Yeah. So they have DJ Catrona as the superhero Pedro, which is great. Wow. And if you don't know, Catrona, who was Flint in G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Hurricane Katrina. Catrona.
DJ Catrona was Flint in G.I. Joe Retaliation, and he's the George Clooney character in the Dusk Till Dawn.
He was
TV
awful
series.
in Retaliation.
He's not good at all.
He was not. They didn't give him anything.
God bless him. But
God bless him for being there. It wasn't his fault.
He seems like a very cool guy.
But he was. But he was
almost Superman.
He was almost Superman.
Just like with Army.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so they obviously liked him, because here we are 10 years later, they bring him back to play one of the Marvels, one of the Shazam family.
And it's cool to see him.
And it's awesome. And he's really good, even if just for the few minutes that he gets.
I think that other people probably echo the sentiment, but I was fully expecting for that lovely girl who played Mary to just play superhero Mary too.
Yeah.
Because I thought
she's
an adult.
Yeah.
That's going to be like the joke, is they're all going to look around and be like, I'm
Why
so
didn't
different.
she
She's
just-
going to be like, I'm already living up to my full potential.
Yeah.
I just have superpowers, you know. So just like us.
Yeah.
But I don't get why there's this different actress. I mean, I know that they wanted to be consistent about everybody kind of changing identities.
It's been an inconsistent thing in the history of the comics.
Uh-huh.
You know, Freddy is still a kid when he transforms in the old stories. One of my favorite Shazam stories is the Jeff Smith, the Critter Bone, did a miniseries, Monster Society of Evil.
Oh, yeah.
And Mary stays a little kid when she transforms in that.
So it's all...
Yeah, so it's been kind of wishy-washy. So, I mean, I don't think that they were... But, you know, I guess in terms of the consistency of the movie...
Does it all seem to you like people play really fast and loose with Shazam mythology and continuity, like always in DC Comics? Like that,
Oh, yeah.
That's always been like a thing.
Yeah, it's been, you know, it's been sort of reset and redone so many times. DC overall's played so fast and loose with their characters. You know, DC's got 3 A-level characters. You know, that have been
the Holy Trinity.
The Trinity has been essentially
the
consistent.
unholy Trinity,
except for offshoot things and Elseworld stories and stuff.
Right.
Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. You know, same person consistently through comic book history.
Right.
You go down one step and you're talking about some very confusing, convoluted, you know, timelines.
Comic books convoluted? What?
Gasp. Comic book gasp! Exclamation point. That's a funny thing. I do like that the exclamation point is specifically a official part of the title of Shazam, the movie. So
it is?
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's in the, you know.
That's all right. Yeah.
Just like the old comic book title.
I should have realized that, I guess.
But one step down, you know, the Flash has been a different character than Barry Allen for 20 years. He's Wally West for 25 years.
Different guys.
Aquaman's had some very bizarre, interpretations. At one point, Arthur Curry was like some barnacle creature under the sea. And even, you know, Billy Batson was at one point the Wizard, you know, like the Trials of Shazam from 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
After Infinite Crisis, somewhere in there. So, yeah, that's one of the best things about this movie, and that's one of the best things these movies can do for these characters, is to take these long, storied, confusing comic book histories and turn them into something digestible.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what Jeff Johns did with his New 52 Shazam kind of reboot. Was he sort of took all those ideas, and it was a great amalgamation of different things, and that's what this movie owes a lot too.
Well, for sure, and that's by design. I think you know when they were developing those New 52 stories, those reinterpretations of the characters, I think that was on that was on their mind. You know, well, let's make these movie scripts. You pick up this first.
Let's take it one step further. Who literally greenlit Shazam?
Jeff
Johns literally greenlit Shazam.
Yeah.
So the guy who wrote the story greenlit a version at the studio level. Had the power at a studio level to say, I want my version that I create. This is what I think it should be.
Ditto Aquaman, even though it's not quite as as heavily adapted from his New 52 run. It has that first Throne of Atlantis story from New 52, very heavily inspired.
These aren't accidents, and I think that it's a shame that Johns isn't the chief creative officer like he was.
Well, we might see it come back to that now.
I hope we do, because look, it's been his projects, the ones that he personally greenlit that have been
based on his work.
That's it. So you've got,
and he's championed the TV stuff, which has been arguably their bigger success in the past.
That's right. So I hope that it comes back around, especially now that Walter Hamada isn't in charge of WB anymore. Yeah. And maybe there's room for Jeff Johns to come back into that role.
Well, the success of Aquaman and Shazam both are going to cause some massive changes. I mean, without a doubt. And Wonder Woman, of course. So, they no longer... I don't know how successful a new Superman movie would be necessarily. I think they've sort of gone past that point.
They're to the point they won't even show Henry Cavill's face.
Yeah, exactly.
Superman appears. So, one of the things in this movie is that David F. Sandberg, who's a horror director, he directed Annabelle Creation and some other stuff. And this has a lot of horror elements. So,
but again, we talked about that. There's macabre ideas from those the Golden Age comic books. The Seven Deadly Sins is a first issue concept.
Those look great, by the way. The effects were really nice.
Yeah. It's funny how much better they look than the Parademons in Justice League.
I know. Yet this movie was made for a third of the money?
Yeah, after all said and done, probably a fourth.
A fourth, probably.
Justice League.
Some people say it cost $500 million to make Justice League. I believe that. It gives me the movie sweats.
Yeah.
But what about the boardroom scene? I mean, that was
Oh, it
insane.
was great.
Where John Glover and everybody is like,
Yeah.
killed off Savannah.
Throws
kills
his
off
brother out the window. and
Oh,
stuff.
it's
Great.
horrifying.
Yeah.
You actually have one of the 7 deadly sins actually bites the guy's head off, and
Yeah.
they cut away right before he can separate. And I was thinking,
It's
whoa,
just-
what?
It's, to me, I'll tell you, it's got the Ghostbusters level of horror.
Mm-hmm.
Just scary enough to be scary, but not scary enough to turn
Yeah,
children
they do
off.
look like terror dogs.
They do. Oh, yeah.
That's a
I
good
was going to
point.
get to that. They look a lot like terror dogs.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there are some slight problems I have with
Oh,
a few
yeah.
things in the movie. I'll let you lead off, Brandon, with anything that you
It's
felt.
not a 10 out of 10. It's a little overlong.
Right.
It clocks in at about 2:15, and you could take 15 out of it.
I think I would have even been okay with just taking like 5 minutes out of it,
Yeah.
and I would have been good.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you exactly where the bloat is here in a second.
Mhm.
But
not every joke lands.
Right.
When you're in I wouldn't call it a joke a minute movie, but I would call it a joke every 2 minute movie.
Yeah.
And,
Me too.
And so they're not all gonna stick. And
my audience
they-
wasn't like really responding.
I was
to
a
lot
great
of
audience,
jokes.
luckily.
Like they
so
really
that probably
weren't.
made some stuff funnier.
I know, yeah, and I was like the only person laughing at a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. My brother, who sat like 2 rows in front of me because we'd bought tickets not knowing for the same showing,
Yeah.
so we were laughing about it. But he said he could hear me laughing. The only person
That's a
in
good.
the theater. I mean,
Who
I
wouldn't
just-
laugh at that movie?
I thought it was hilarious.
I don't know.
But
It's
so that's
funny
not my
that is.
problem. That's not a problem. But like you said, not every joke is perfect.
Yeah.
But there's way more hits than there are misses.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
For me, there's actually a Power Rangers 2017, another connection that I have for the movie, and it's a problem that I have. At the beginning of Power Rangers 2017, after a really epic opening,
Yeah.
they cut to Jason doing something really kind of stupid and juvenile, like a prank,
Yeah.
and then getting arrested for it.
Mhm.
And it instantly I know that that's their starting point for the character, and I get it from a narrative standpoint. Like, really, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I know what they're trying to do here. But with Billy Batson, I hate that the very first thing you
Doesn't
see him
taint the
do
character too much.
is trying to do like this thing about tricking the police and trying
Yeah.
to. And I know it's a fake out because really he's trying to do it to find his
Yeah.
mom. So it's understandable. So it's not nearly as unforgivable as the
Yeah.
weird Jason stuff in Power Rangers.
But
it's
this
still
is
a little.
his first chance to say holy moly, which is great.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But for me, I don't know if you noticed it, but for me, it was kind of like
I wasn't a tremendous fan.
Let's just keep rolling.
Like I said,
here.
I liked the point that it got them to, but otherwise,
I would have rather seen him be a little more like desperate and destitute, like the '40s Billy Batson was at the beginning.
Well, it's funny. There's this joke I always talk about. It's in Power of Shazam #1 from the '90s, and Billy Batson gets invited to this party, and it's like, he's essentially homeless, just like in the
Right.
40 stories, and his reaction is like, "Oh boy, a free meal!"
Yeah, free meal. I mean,
And it's sort of funny, but it's also
It's also
horrible
really sad.
at the same
Yeah.
time. So
that's where I wish they would have taken it.
yeah,
It's more
I'd like
of
to
a
have
down
seen
on his
a little
luck
bit of
kind
that.
of.
Yeah,
And not so much about
grifting to get by rather than punking the cops to be cool,
and,
which is what they were going for.
To me, that was too much of a.
Yeah, and not particularly believable, honestly.
No.
Not that it has to be. I mean, look at it's a superhero.
And it's a quick recovery, okay?
Yeah.
But for that to be the first scene we have with Billy Batson, is a little...
Thank God that's not how they opened the movie, because it probably would have left more of a bitter taste.
The next thing I have is probably just the nitpickiest thing, but for me it was a little weird. I don't think the movie was ever really clear, and this is probably intentional, if Billy Batson was actually deemed worthy
If he was just the last-ditch effort.
or if he was just
If
a guy.
If Shazam the Wizard was just out
Right,
of time.
if he was just out of time.
Yeah.
And I think that he's just out of time, but maybe also he could see the future and knew that he would eventually be worthy somehow or another.
This kid's not here yet.
But it gets sort of convoluted, though, as you hear all the interviews with all the different people as adults, and you're thinking, wait a second, so the wizard was searching for 30 years, 40 years, and he really couldn't find a single person that would have been a suitable... what about Bruce Wayne? Would he not have been a suitable person?
Exactly.
I mean,
Had they had the chance to take their time with that more, if Shazam the Wizard had lived longer in the story, we don't know if he's dead or not. I mean, he could pop up later. But had the character gone on in the film, it may have given him a chance for some introspection. He could have said, I had to pick Billy in a moment of desperation.
right.
Even though he wasn't perfect, and here he is. He's Shazam now.
That would have been a good fix.
maybe I was wrong about some of the other kids. Maybe this stuff with Savannah, I brought this on myself.
Right, and there's no
maybe
moment like
that's
that.
a little
brilliant.
maybe that's a little too heavy
You could
for
have
this
fixed
kind
that,
of movie.
Brandon. Jeff Johns, listen,
Yeah.
Brandon could have fixed it.
Yeah,
But seriously, that would have been perfect,
yeah,
actually.
but maybe a little too heavy.
Put a
for
button
that
on
kind
it,
of
maybe,
movie,
that would have been nice. But I that seemed hazy to me.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if did you get that vibe off
Oh
of it?
yeah,
It was a little
I thought
hazy.
about that too.
It was kind of like, ugh, here's what I would have done. This would have been I like your fix better.
Mhm.
But my fix would have been like this. I would have had something happen with the wizard, with Savannah's initial encounter with him when he's a kid, to where the 7 deadly sins would have gained some power somehow and would have hurt the wizard or put him into like a stasis or a coma or something, to where he wasn't able to search for anybody
Yeah,
for like 30
Billy
years.
fell into his lab,
And then he wakes up and and says, "This is
oh
the one
yeah,
I've
this
been
is the next. Yeah,
like. This is what I'm. There for me, there needs to be a reason why he isn't able to find somebody who's
Yeah.
worthy. Because to me, I think that should be several
Exactly.
worthy candidates. But
yeah. Why did he just find Clark Kent and give him
really,
the power
yeah.
of Shazam too?
What about Barry Allen? He
Yeah.
would have been a great one.
Exactly.
So to me, that doesn't hold water. That
Yeah.
no one was worthy.
Yeah.
So that's just.
And again, that's one of
it's
those.
just a nit.
That's a suspension of belief.
That's
you
right.
have to have in comic books where if you try to interconnect the characters 24/7
That's right.
in every life event, it would make zero sense.
It all has to
whatsoever.
be realistic, 110%.
Exactly. So you can't just say, why didn't Superman show up and help him find out?
Yeah, that's
And that's the thing.
And why didn't Henry Cavill show up?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So anyway, if I had one fanboy nitpick, even though I understand that's what they did, I would have liked, and I discussed this with you earlier. I think I would have liked Mary to have her white costume at the end of the movie, and she starts out with the red costume and
Right.
the classic stories.
Yeah, I
So
like
we
the
get
red.
it,
I like the red costume better.
but
That's me.
I think where's if they're already trying to stick to this logic of they all turn into adults and they're keeping it consistent, why have two characters with the same color costume? When there's an alternative,
Sure.
when there's an alternative.
It would have been
But they
visually more satisfying. I agree.
Yeah, but they can do it in the sequel.
Right.
I'm sure they will too.
So, for me, probably what I feel is probably the biggest complaint that I have about the movie, and this is just, it's not a big deal, but I was a little wore out by this, is I sort of wanted Billy Batson to become a little more confident at being Shazam a little quicker.
Sooner in the movie.
Because when Savannah shows up, and it's a great scene because of how scary it is, how Savannah almost kills him and everything, I just feel like he's floundering so much in that moment that it's becoming a little frustrating, especially as the movie tries to be a little funny.
Yeah.
Where he's, trying to be like, oh, stay away, I don't know what I'm doing. And I would have used the montage of him getting to know his powers as a way for it to show him getting more confident. Best example I can give is the Disney Hercules movie.
Oh yeah.
It does a really good job with this, where in the middle of the movie, he
Hero.
goes from 0 to hero, and he actually gets good at what he's doing. And then, he faces several villains and does really well.
Yeah.
But I feel like this, he should have got better sooner. I mean, that's just me.
DC trivia. Did you know that Disney's Hercules is Grant Morrison's favorite superhero
It's
movie?
his favorite superhero film.
He said so
And-
on the commentary for All Star Superman.
And good golly, if you look at the artwork, like seriously,
yeah.
it turns out it looks a lot
Well,
like Disney Hercules.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
just something for you to know.
So
there.
anyway,
Earlier, Brandon, you were saying that you thought that maybe it could stand a little bit of time cut out of it.
oh sure.
I'll tell you where they could have cut it out at, too. It was right when Savannah is, when Billy runs away to go to his mom's. I would never cut out the scene where he confronts his mom and learns that she's just trash, and which is just sad, and that's the emotional completion of his arc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all this runaround stuff where Savannah gets to the house and they wait, and he lures him back,
They
and
kill
then he
the
gets
time.
there, and then they run around for a little while. They go to the cave, and they run away.
They
and
replay the same beat. He gets to the house and they go through it with him and Savannah. They're in the cave and they go through the same thing, and they get to the carnival and they go through the same thing.
Right.
One of those doesn't need to be there.
Right. There's one that's got to go, man.
Yeah.
And here's what I think they should have done. Instead of him going to the gentleman's club when he
Yeah.
teleports, they should have just went straight to the carnival.
Yeah.
They should have set it up that earlier he'd seen the carnival, or he had the carnival on his mind because of his mom
Yeah.
the last time he was with her.
Yeah.
And then just go straight to it. Because there's that extra thing there, and we just don't need it. And it just bloats the movie right there. 5 minutes. You could cut 5 minutes right out of there of them running around like Scooby-Doo in the gang.
Yeah.
You really could. Having him herd kids for 5 minutes. You get rid of that. Get rid of that.
Easily, yeah.
So, yay or nay to the Superman cameo at the end? Do you think it works, or do you think it doesn't?
in the context of a different film, I don't think it would work. It would come off
Right.
cheap. But I think this movie takes so much time sort of taking the wind out of Man of Steel that I think it suits the nature of this movie very well. I think it's funny.
Especially the kid dropping the Superman figure to watch
Yeah.
Shazam's battle.
Exactly. So, in this film, I think it works. In general, I'm not a fan of the concept. It reminds me of one of their TV tricks that they've done in the shows before to avoid showing a character they're not supposed to, that sort of thing. But I do think it's funny. I do like it.
I think it's funny, but I gotta say I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
Like when it happened, I thought, oh, they actually got him.
Yeah.
And then cut.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's not how you want to end your movie.
Yeah.
With somebody going like, oh, and then just stop.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have put that in my opinion. And right now they're all rushing to justify it.
Yeah.
Like here's all sorts of interviews to producers.
Oh,
It's
you're
actually
supposed to be
better
looking
now.
at Freddy.
Now it's
Yeah.
better. No, you couldn't get Henry Cavill because Warner Brothers and him had a divorce.
Yeah.
And it isn't that his schedule was filled up. It's because they're on the outs right now.
Yeah.
That could change, but they're not friends
Yeah.
right now. I really believe that. So I don't. You tell us in the comments below. I mean, did you like that, or were you like me, where it was like, oh, they didn't?
Yeah. Oh no, they didn't.
I felt like a balloon deflating. I
Yeah.
really did. And I shouldn't have felt that right there at that point in the movie. That was supposed to.
I think I was flying so high on
Yeah.
the movie itself.
Right.
Again, in context, I can't. I don't think it's a demerit to Shazam for them to have done that. For his film, it's probably just a. It would have been nice if they could have just got somebody else.
Well, sure.
Could they have not gotten Gal Gadot to just be Wonder Woman for a second? That would have been funny, even though
Even Ezra Miller Flash, who is now apparently
It
gone
was now
as well.
possibly on the outs, but it could have been Momoa, Aquaman, or
Why
something.
couldn't they
You know,
use
have
that
an
as
Aquaman joke
Affleck's
at the
last Batman appearance?
That would have been awesome.
Hey, I'm here at the middle school.
I was told I would receive a
What?
free meal.
Where's the fries? Do you have school pizza, the square kind?
So I don't know, but
I don't know. It's okay.
But again, I do wish they had been able to do something more substantial. I didn't want the movie to run away with it being a Superman and Shazam team up.
I agree.
But
But wouldn't it have been nice for one little brief moment to
Yeah.
just have a little something? Not at the end, because I think the whole concept of putting the Superman cameo at the end was a mistake. Like, even if he'd been if he had really been there, then all the attention would have been on Henry Cavill Superman.
Yeah.
I think that it's just a flawed idea.
Yeah.
Just me.
But it goes back to very early on. The first DC Shazam comic book ever in the early '70s. It's kind of Superman. Hey, welcome to the family.
Yeah, that's
Shazam
right.
kind of thing.
And it
Welcome
should
to
have been.
family,
And it
Captain
should have been
Marvel.
in this.
Yeah.
But maybe at a different point. I'm not sure. Before the ending scene. The
Yeah.
ending scene shouldn't it have been good enough for Shazam just to have shown up for Freddy.
Yeah.
That it was just him.
Well, it would have been a much funnier idea would have been Cavill Superman showing up after they beat Sivana to help, like the old Spider-Man.
Brandon
guys,
fixed the movie again.
Yeah.
He fixed it.
Be like, hey, what's going on here?
I do have a small fixed offer myself this time. I think I figured something out. And this is actually what I thought they would do when I was watching the movie. And it's only now dawned on me how they could have done it. You remember how Shazam Billy loses the bullet in the
the Superman bullet.
and he loses the Superman bullet, and Freddy is devastated. What about if at the end, you have Shazam, somehow or another, he's around Superman or something, and a bullet flies off of him, and at the end he gives it to Freddy.
Yeah,
and that's Freddy's real.
That idea sort of occurred to me too.
But how about this? Freddy's like, I'm okay. Earlier when we were at the gas station,
I got one of your
and he
bullets.
takes out a bullet
I got
that
a
bounced
Shazam
off him.
bullet.
Now, wouldn't that have been
That
it,
would've
man?
been
That
very
would have been
cute.
the bromance moment
Yeah.
of the movie.
I like
that would have been it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's what they could have done.
So the path not taken. But again, we got what we got. I can't hold it against the film in general.
What's the best joke in the movie? What's the best, funniest joke you think? While you're thinking, I'll tell you what I like.
I don't know. What do you think?
I like.
I have a hard time pinpointing it. I really.
I
do.
like.
Because I thought so much.
I like the Eye of the Tiger joke.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
It is.
Where
Yeah.
he's like lining out my hands.
And it's one of those things. If I'd read it on paper,
But I don't think it's the best joke of the movie. I personally think that probably the best joke of the movie is when they're in the city and they do this crazy. To me, it's a direct Man of Steel parody. When he and Sivana fly into the city at the end, and Sivana does this big villain monologue.
Speech
I can't hear you. We're this part because I don't know. It just really worked for me. It's kind of deadpan, but it seems like it seems almost British in execution.
It is, yeah. It's almost Python.
It's a really funny joke to me. So I
really
like that.
Rocky, about the joke about Rocky training to get up the steps.
Yeah. That's one of my big favorites. Where he's like, "Yeah, I can see why Rocky tried to. You know, why he trained so hard to get up these steps.
You got to shoot him in the face. Is good. I like
that
a lot.
That whole sequence is brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's funny overall. I mean, again, it's difficult for me. I've only seen it the once, so hard to pinpoint.
When he calls that woman old lady.
Oh yeah.
He saves her from the fire. It's good for you by using the mace.
Yeah.
The movie's just full of
it's
great
full of little stuff.
It's hard to pinpoint one thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the best DC Extended Universe movie so far, Brandon? Like, what is it?
My favorite?
Uh-huh.
Oh, Shazam.
So it is Shazam for you.
Yeah,
all right,
for sure. Yeah. And part of that's my love for the character, and I'll cop to that. But I'll say, to be totally honest, like with time and retrospect, up until now, and this is a major turnaround.
Right.
Man of Steel probably was my favorite up until now.
Absolutely.
I mean, for real.
Yeah. I mean, I think
it took that much time.
I think the same is true for me. It's funny because I'm conflicted about this. Because I saw Aquaman, and to me, Aquaman was like one of those Zack Snyder movies, but with a bunch of the stuff fixed in it because James Wan had directed it.
Yeah.
All the action felt like some of that great Snyder action, like the crazy slow motion stuff. And the last third of the movie is pure bliss.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it is incredible. It was electrifying for me to watch him fight Orm and stuff.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, on the top of the submarine.
It was beautiful. It was like a painting. You know, all the underwater action where they have the big war.
Oh, yeah.
It was breathtaking. But then Shazam is such a clever concept that I went back and forth, and I've talked to you going back and forth up to this.
It's tough.
I don't know, man, because for me, Aquaman had really ticked a lot of boxes for me, but it wasn't a perfect movie. And Shazam really ticks a lot of boxes for me, but it's not a perfect movie.
They've yet to do their 10 out of 10 movie.
They've not.
They haven't done their Winter Soldier.
They've not done another Dark Knight or anything yet. Every one of these movies are like really Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Shazam are really good, like 9 movies. Yeah, they're 9s.
Exactly,
but they're not 10s.
They're still setting on that, and they've yet to reach the height that they did prior.
Maybe I'm being a little generous to Wonder Woman. Maybe she's 8.5, maybe, but still. But seriously, these movies are really, really, really great. But maybe overall, Shazam is probably the most competently made.
What's your least favorite DC extended?
Least favorite DC extended universe film. Okay,
I guess to be a cheat, the theatrical.
Yeah,
Batman
I was just about
Superman
to say theatrical Batman
by far
v
the
Superman.
least good.
What a slog.
Yeah. To go back in time and tell myself to never even watch that theatrical version.
I wished I had never seen it.
I would give up the theatrical experience. Just wait. See the director's cut.
I would have just rather seen it at home. The director's cut, the ultimate edition.
Yeah, the ultimate edition.
But yeah, that's easily it for me. I think second after that for probably worst is Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And I think
Suicide Squad's
I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think people were way too hard on Suicide Squad.
That's a case where there's so much crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
I like a big swipes of it a lot. It's massive a movie,
They did everything they could, I think, to kind of fix it up and get it to be something that it wasn't, but maybe the original was, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But again, we're not here to talk about Suicide Squad.
But Brennan, if you had to give Shazam a rating, what would you give it?
Oh Lord, 9.5 out of 10.
9.5 out of 10. Okay.
To edge it out over those other ones. So
sure.
Yeah, 9.5.
Yeah. I would probably give it a solid 9, somewhere in there out of 10. Great movie.
Much love for a character that I have a genuine, heartfelt affinity for.
I mean, you look at the casting, you look at the direction, you look at the tone of the movie. It's wonderful.
My favorite mid-credits movie scene ever. Mr. Mind.
Mr. Mind's crazy appearance.
I mean, you see him in the jar. He's gone. I didn't know what they'd do. Blew my mind. I couldn't. I was shocked. Practically in tears.
Yep.
Between Mr. Mind talking to Dr. Savannah and and Doom Patrol this year and everything that they've been doing. It's my DC heart is overflown.
It is full.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It's the most wonderful time to be a fan of these characters.
Here's what I want to see. I'm all about a good underdog story, and I want DC to come out of this slump. I want them to rise.
I think this proves it's not a fluke. I think this proves Aquaman and Wonder Woman weren't flukes. So I think that this is the stride. I think they're in their time.
I mean, now that we have basically covered our thoughts on the movie, are you disappointed in the box office for the movie, or do you think that, how do you feel about, what was it, $53 million or something?
I think that's very solid.
So you think it's solid? Okay.
You know, I think that there's so much else going on with movies. You know, Pet Sematary was also very successful this weekend for that type of film.
And it was very good?
I still haven't seen it. I really want to.
Yeah,
I love the original. So, you know, I don't think that's bad. You know, I think that's right in the tier where it needs to be. And again, lower budget film. So, you know, if it winds up making $400 or $500 million, it's in very good shape. And they've got sequel plans already, and
it must have made
and oddball plans to do a Black Adam movie, and then
I'm not sure if that's.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
It'll be the Shaquille O'Neal Black Adam. Like
yeah.
So I feel it is a little disappointing to me because I felt like the movie deserved so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's.
Oh yeah, I would have loved to have
right,
$100 million,
but and I feel like it did fine.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen it at least cleared 60 or 65.
I think it'll have a solid
better.
second weekend.
I think it
and
will.
We'll
too.
see here in just a couple.
I think
days.
you're going to see a very small percentage of drop off.
Yeah.
I think it's going to hold really well. But
it'll be number one second weekend.
But you remember earlier how I said I had more to say about the Christmas thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a theory about this.
Mm-hmm.
I truly think Shazam was written and conceived to be a Thanksgiving or Christmas release film.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the movie, it opens on Christmas. There's a holiday theme throughout the movie.
Yeah. It's a general family concept, which is very Christmas.
It is always, they say those kinds of movies for Christmas, for November. And I really think, you know, at the end they go to like a Christmas carnival, like a winter carnival. I think that money was left on the table here. I think this movie did not fit the mold more of like this big summer actioner. Like Aquaman, it's funny, fit that more, which is
well,
weird.
you know, the Christmas movie has been replaced with the second blockbuster season.
Exactly.
You know, thanks to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
Right.
So you don't have room for these types of films in that time frame anymore.
I see Thanksgiving would have been the perfect release date for this movie. And right now, Endgame, man, is the behemoth that is swallowing everything.
Yeah.
Any hype, the pre-sale tickets went on sale right around the time that Shazam opened, and that has absorbed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my personal theory. I think it deserved to do a lot better. And if you haven't seen it, you need to give it a chance and give it your money, please.
Absolutely.
David F. Sandberg and Warner Brothers are begging you.
I'll be seeing it again. So.
Listen, it's worth seeing again.
Terrific movie. What do you want in the sequel?
Okay. I do think that the sequel, it'll be time that, we need to do Black Adam. Mm-hmm. Then I think scrap this idea for a Black Adam movie. I think this is silly. Let's bring in Black Adam and let's do him for the sequel. I think that is the natural route to go. I think you can have Mr. Mind in there as a good supporting player. Lots of good superhero movies that are worth their salt. Bring in two villains for the sequel, and that's okay.
Mr. Mind can get Savannah and Black Adam together, and they do Monster Society of Evil.
That's right, Monster Society of Evil. I think the tradition of Shazam is to have multiple villains. They're always teaming up. They're always working together. It's just part of the tradition of the character. Mm-hmm. So I think definitely don't leave Mark Strong out of it. I think you want Mark Strong back.
For sure. And I would like to see him back as a more sort of over-the-top, cartoony villain. You know, I want to see him a little hunchback.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
he's all crippled up from his fight with,
Yeah, exactly. And wearing the white lab coat and everything.
I think some people are concerned that The Rock would overshadow everything, but you know what? I think that Shazam, as he's being portrayed by Zachary Levi, I think that performance is so solid, it's so outrageous.
And over the top.
It would be hard to swallow that performance up. I think he could hold his own. I think having an outrageous villain to go against would be perfect.
And then maybe team them up in another movie.
Sure. Yeah, you can do that.
They could, they could fight.
Put Black Adam in a Suicide Squad or something if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I think that the future is really bright. Warner Brothers has went ahead and they have David F. Sandberg and the screenwriters doing another movie.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some allusion in the movie to Black Adam being the first
there.
Clearly,
you know,
and the little
vision
thing, the Vision. So I think there's good things ahead for DC fans.
I'd like Mr. Takitani in the sequel, his tiger friend, and there's some cool ways they could do that.
There's some great references to him.
Yeah, the stuffed tiger is great, and the alligators are a reference.
It's one of my favorite moments in the movie where he tells the kid to hold that tiger and you're going to be okay.
So that may be all they ever do with that, and if they do, that's fine.
That's fine.
Uncle Dudley would be funny. Would be a funny concept.
I could imagine. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know who we'd get to play in. John C. Reilly, I think, would be.
Just let the foster dad take that role.
I thought about
the guy from The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
the guy from Walking Dead.
Because he's sort of, in the modern comics, he sort of fills that role.
Kind of a bigger guy, and I mean, it would be hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. anyway.
Give the whole family powers.
Yeah.
Give everybody powers. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Who knows?
Oh, man.
But the sky's the limit.
That's right. Alrighty, friends. We want to thank you for sitting down with us for our very in-depth review of Shazam. Great movie. We highly suggest you see it.
Absolutely. If you haven't seen it yet, get out. And not just give them your money, but we know you'll love the film.
That's right.
Take the whole family. It's a good change of pace from a lot of the stuff we've been seeing lately. You know, a lot of these movies are too heavy, like I said, sometimes too big. And this is a good story for everybody. So, from the bottom of the heart of a long-time Shazam Captain Marvel, two enthusiastic thumbs up.
Me as well.
Major
Fantastic.
two lightning bolt strikes.
You can trust this man.
Yes. I was thrilled. Beyond, it was better than I thought it would be. So
That's right.
That's a big plus.
Guys, we appreciate you sitting down with us.
Very
And
much
God
so.
bless you and have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care. Subscribe.
I am Kazam.